Hello, if you're new here, my name is Madison and this is Mad's Makeup. If you're not new, then welcome back. Thank you for watching. In today's video, I'm going to be going over 3 different type of brow styles and how to achieve them. The first is going to be more of a natural, everyday kind of brow. The second is going to be more of a fluffy brow that we're seeing a lot on TikTok and other types of social media. And the third is going to be more of that Instagram style brow where it's going to be really chiseled and carved out kind of a brow. So if you want to see how to achieve these 3 brow styles, then just keep watching the video. So I brought you guys in nice and close so you can see what I'm doing. I do not have anything on my brows. First style we're going to try out is the more natural, everyday sort of brow. So for this brow style, I'm going to be using a powder product as well as a setting gel. So for the powder, I'll be using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Powder. I'm in the shade Ash Brown. My brows are on the darker side and more of a cool tone, and this is a really good color match. So I'm going to be taking the lighter side, which is this side right here, on an angled brow brush, and this is the Anastasia Beverly Hills brush in style 12. And I just dip in, and for this specific brow style, we're really not focusing on doing a carved out sort of thing. We're just going to be filling in gaps. So I have a few gaps up here in those areas, as you can see. So just fill that in. And then I have a few little gaps as well underneath and right there. So when I'm doing this more natural, everyday kind of brow, I really do focus on just filling in the little spots that I have. So if you have brows more like me where they're more full but maybe have gaps, this is a really good way to kind of keep it more natural without looking too heavy and full. And if you don't have as much brows as me, you can still do this sort of technique, especially with a thin angled brush. And this kind of creates those small hair-like strokes, so your brows still look more natural without looking really filled and chiseled in. And honestly, this is about all I'm going to do for the more natural style. And then to finish the brow up, I like to take a tinted brow gel, and this is going to be the Anastasia Beverly Hills one in the shade Espresso. And I take the longer side and I just take it and brush it through my brows a little bit. And make sure you brush up when you're doing this, because if you do brush down, it's going to pull your brows down, which will in turn kind of pull your whole face down. Where if you do pull them up a little bit, it kind of gives your face a little bit of a lift. This is going to be basically what my everyday more natural brow would look like. So I'm going to wipe this one off and then move on to the next brow, which is going to be the fluffy brow. All right, so my brows are all cleaned off and ready for the next one, which is going to be fluffy brows. So to achieve the more fluffy brows, the 2 products I'll be using is the 24-hour brow setter from Benefit, as well as the Precisely My Brow from Benefit. And this one is a nice tiny tipped brow, so we can kind of create those feathery hair-like strokes with it. Starting out, I'm going to brush my hair down. In this way, I can kind of start doing the top strokes. And similar to the more everyday style brow, we don't want to do the kind of lined out, filled in brow style. We want it to still be a little bit more like hair-like strokes, a little more natural looking, but we are having them being a little bit more fluffier and fuller. So you are going to want to have them a little more filled in than you would normally for the natural. And then pull the brow hairs up with the spoolie and start creating hair-like strokes up from the bottom. And don't worry if you get a little too low while you're doing this. We're going to end up cutting that bottom with concealer. So just start pulling it up like this. This is going to be another really lifted effect sort of a brow, so it's going to help pull your face up rather than drag it down. And make sure if there's any like gappiness happening in the middle of your brow, like sometimes you'll get some gaps like right here in that general area, make sure to fill those in, because when you do pull your hair up like this, the way it's going to be for the more feathered effect, you're going to see those gaps and it's going to be really obvious. All right, so I have the brows all filled in. So this next step is going to what really brings those brows into the more feathered effect, and that is taking the 24-hour brow setter. And this is a clear brow gel, so this works really well for any brow color you have. The end on this side right here has longer bristles, where the one on the other side has shorter. So we're going to be taking the end that has the longer bristles and start by really coating the brow in that product, and always pull up with this. And you might need to like wiggle it around a little bit, kind of get in between all those hairs. Just make sure you get all of that coated nice and well. And then we're going to flip it over to the shorter bristle side and start really individually pulling up this by each section. You might need to do a redip. I'm going to do that right now. But as you can see, it really flattens up those brows and really pulls the brow hair up to create that feathered effect. And the reason that I use a pencil rather than a powder when I'm doing this is because when the powder gets wet, it tends to come off a little easier, where when the pencil gets wet, it does not come off as easier. And so that way, when it's getting that gel coated on it, it doesn't pull any of the product off. It just pulls your brow hairs up. All right, so you can see right there, the the difference between my brows. This one is really full, fluffy, and pulled up. So I'm going to do that on this eye, and then we're going to get to the cutting of the concealer on the bottom, so that way they don't look as big and bushy, but really kind of carved out on the bottom. All right, so I already carved out this brow right here, so we're going to go in and carve this brow out. I'll be taking the NARS Radiant Concealer. I go straight in with the applicator and run that right along the base of my brow. Then I take a small concealer brush and kind of pull that across, make sure I get all the little spots filled in that I might not have been able to with the applicator. And then I'll just go in with a little beauty blender on the smaller side and kind of pounce that in a bit, so that way there isn't any obvious lines. So as you can see right there, that is going to be the fluffy brow technique. You only need really 3 products to do that. It's pretty quick and easy and really creates that full feathered brow effect. So next I'll be moving on to the more chiseled out Instagram style brows. For the final brow style, we're going to be doing the more Instagrammable carved out brows that you see on a lot of the makeup artists. This is more of that style that we saw a few years back, and now we're kind of seeing more of the feathered brows, but there are a lot of people that still like to do those carved out Instagram brows. They do photograph really well for the up close eye looks, and so it's something that is a really good style to know and make sure that you are able to achieve, because some people do still enjoy that. The first thing that you're going to want to do for an Instagram brow is to make sure that your brows are well maintained, that they're not unruly and wild. Right now, mine currently are needing a trim, so I'm going to do that on camera to show you how that happens. So I went ahead and brushed my brow hair up, and then I go in with the scissors, they're little brow scissors, and just clean those up a little bit. You don't want your brow hairs to be looking too insane, because this look is more about being more uniformed and less as the wild everyday that we did before. You might need to do a little bit of plucking too, to just make sure that you don't have any rogue brow hairs. But right there, as you can see, comparing this to this one is looking a lot more put together and uniformed, where this one is wild. Brow hair has been all trimmed up. For this style brow, I'm going to be going in with more of the cream brow gel style, so I'll be taking the Ka brow, and it is more of like this really thick cream brow. If you've ever seen Anastasia Beverly Hills dip brow, it's just like that. I'll just be taking the little brush that comes along with it. Start out with brushing your brow hair down, so just go along. Don't do like an exact line, because that can maybe look a little bit funky, but just go along natural brow line, or if you don't have natural brows, then just kind of create that line that you want. And when you're getting closer to the front, pull it down a little bit. Don't go so like linear, but just kind of blend that in a little bit better. We're gonna go with the spoolie, pull the hairs back up, and kind of do that same thing along the bottom of the brow line. Just kind of slowly create that shape and pull it out into the outer tip of the brow like this. You want it to be a nice angled, pulled out shape, pulling up as you go, and make sure you're not leaving any gaps. You want this to be really filled in and bold rather than the more natural kind of style. And we are going to be carving it out again with concealer at the end, so if you do kind of go over a little bit bolder than you want, you can go and fix that up with concealer. And right now I'm just filling it in so there's no gappiness, and you can go ahead and take your spoolie to kind of move it around, move your brow hairs around, make sure there's no gaps there. So you can see I have some gaps, filling that in. It's really important that these gaps aren't visible, especially when you're going to be doing an up close eye look, because when your camera is zoomed in really close in your eye, those gaps are going to be way more obvious than they would be far away. A little closer to the front. So don't do so much of the fold, just line filled in. We're gonna just do kind of little baby strokes of hairs like this, go up. So you don't want the front to be looking as uniformed as the other end. It will start looking too blocky. You want this to kind of still stay a little more on the natural side, but also filled in a little bit too. Okay, so they're all filled in. So next we're going to be going into the Benefit Gimme Brow, and this is going to be a colored brow gel, and it's going to be the same color as the brow that I have on right here. And I forgot to mention before, but all of the Benefit products I'm using are in the shade 4. I just take this little spoolie here and start pulling up the brow hairs, and you kind of just want them to be pulled up without going above the line that you have here, but also keeping them up so they're not falling down below the bottom line. Then we're going to go ahead and go back into the concealer using that NARS Radiant Concealer, and just taking the applicator, going underneath the brow all along that lower line, and then we're going to also go above the brow and carve out that upper line. So it's going to look like that, and I only go about to halfway. Then again, we're going to be taking that thin little concealer brush, pulling the concealer down. Sometimes I'll actually just fill my brows in like this, just so I can see where any of my rogue hairs are to know where to pluck. I might not necessarily want to wear this this for like an everyday kind of a brow thing, but it's really good at kind of identifying where you might have any stray hairs that need plucking. And then I go back in with the sponge and kind of blend that up and out, so that way there's no weird lining between the concealer and your foundation, and same with underneath the brow. And the last step is one that you can skip if you want, but I feel like this is one that really helps bring your brow bone to look a little bit more highlighted and bright under your arch. So I go in with a highbrow glow pencil from Benefit and just run that along here, and it's a tan shimmer color. Just pat that in with the finger, and it gives the brow like a little bit of a lift with that glow and really makes your brow bone nice and pronounced. And right there is going to be the third and final brow finished up, and that'll be the Instagram style brows. All 3 brow styles are complete. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and let me know in the comments which brow style was your favorite. I'm curious to know which one you like the most, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!